G'day and welcome to the Outer Side. I'm Tony and today I'm joined by Kadeja Assaad, better known as Kadz Huntress. Kadeja is a hunter, a fisho, a conservationist and someone who appears to live for the outdoors. And something that's very interesting is when I first came up with the concept for this show, Kadz was pretty much at the top of my list because she embodies everything that the Outer Side stands for. Kadz, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
And thank you for having us here on your beautiful property.
Oh, you're welcome.
So you are, as I said, an outdoors woman through and through, right?
Yes.
You live for the outdoors.
Yes, absolutely.
How did all that start for you? Did you grow up in the outdoors?
Yes, so we grew up on a farm, and so we had a house in suburbia and at the farm, so we would come back and forth, and we got to live freely on the farm and discover things. And my dad would take us hiking, bushwalking, teaches us like what the hoof prints are and what type of poo this is, yeah. Even with vegetation. So I learned a lot from my father.
Was that in Australia or overseas?
Australia.
Yeah, right.
So I was born and raised here.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So you've grown up in the Australian bush.
Yes.
And I guess you've got that affinity that you've carried with you throughout your adult life now, right?
Yep.
So you do a lot of hunting.
Mm-hmm.
You do a lot of target shooting through the SSAA, and you're very visible in that organisation.
Yes.
And that's how I first met you.
Yep.
And then you also work in bush regeneration, which is something that's, I guess, a little unique.
Yes, it's very dear to my heart. It's making a difference to Australian bushland,
Yep.
making sure all our native species are thriving and healthy, because if we don't, it's all going to die out. So there needs to be people out there in bush regeneration to keep everything maintained and at a level.
Yep.
Yeah, to keep it healthy.
Yeah, and we were talking just before we started filming about the number of introduced flora and fauna in Australia, and unfortunately we have a lot to answer for because we've introduced a lot of species.
We are.
We're the problem, right?
Yep, we are.
So I think what you do there in terms of taking ownership of it in some respects and going out there and, you know, attempting to make a difference is really admirable.
Thank you.
So in terms of that bush regeneration work, so who do you work for? Do you work for national parks or what's the organisation?
So I work for a company that specialises in environmental restoration. So whether it's bush regen, habitat, fauna as well. So if anything needs to be removed, which is a feral species, they do that as well. And it's really, really important with what we do and what they are for and about. Their company name is an Aboriginal name as well.
Okay.
So it resonates with what we do, trying
definitely.
to bring everything, you know, back to how it was as much as we can.
So is that a government organisation you work for or it's independent?
Independent.
Yeah, right. So how does that organisation raise funds? Is it government subsidised? Is there grants that you get in order to fund the work, or how does it sort of work commercially?
I believe they do have some kind of funding, but also it's private.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, a
so
lot of private work.
Investment.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So what's the sort of work that you're doing there? Like are you getting rid of weeds in the bush?
Yes.
And then also planting?
Yes, so we revegetate,
Yep.
But beforehand we remove and clear everything. For example, African olive trees, privet, blackberry bushes, from those big, humongous species of vegetation to the smallest that you can think of.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
so
once that's all cleared and the ground is healthy again, we start revegetating.
So do you have like a background in botany, or how do you know what you're doing? Is it just because you've grown up in the bush and you know what's what? Or
growing up on the farm, we had to hand weed, through the vegetables because we had a vegetable farm, and we supplied a lot of the big named industries in Australia.
Yeah, right.
And that was in Leppington, and just hand weeding and Dad telling us what's good and what's not.
Yeah, right.
We learnt from that. Yeah, and
That's
it stuck
so
with me.
Yeah, and obviously it's something that you're passionate about.
I am really passionate about, and when you're younger, you're like, oh, this is frustrating, this is annoying, oh, it's so slow, but when you get older, you start appreciating everything that you've learnt when you were younger, and it becomes implemented in what you do now.
That's so true, isn't it? And it's really interesting that pretty much every guest I've had on the podcast so far, it's always started when they were a kid, right? Whether it was camping with their family or, as you said, growing up on the farm. And for me, I grew up fishing.
Yeah.
And it's something I still love, and it ignites that passion in you,
Oh,
right? From a young
absolutely.
age.
Before hunting, we grew up fishing. My dad's a big, big fisherman, like the most, you know, how can I say it? The most person who is really passionate about fishing.
Yeah.
He, my earliest memory was fishing.
Yeah.
So he took us out when we were babies, practically.
Funny, hey?
Yeah.
I'm the same. I don't really remember much of my childhood, but I remember fishing.
Yeah,
and I just
fishing.
remember fishing as much as I possibly could.
Yeah.
And I think it's such a good thing. And I know when I see little kids at a wharf or just on the banks, I go, that's mad, because that's the next generation of fisho. So you still do a lot of fishing yourself, right?
I do.
And are you fishing for sport or for food?
For food.
Yeah,
I don't do sport fishing. And kudos to who do that, kind of lifestyle. But I'm more for food. Yeah. I love fishing for flathead, whiting, bream, snapper, anything that's really nice and that nice bland flavour, not too fishy.
Yeah, okay, nothing too strong.
No.
So you're not eating the Aussie salmon and Taylor and stuff like that?
I've tried salmon, I didn't really like it. My son likes it, but I'm not a big fan.
That's fair enough.
Yeah.
And I guess we're so lucky. So you're based in Sydney, and even in such a heavily populated city, the fishing's pretty good.
Oh, definitely.
And we've got access to what's, I guess, people call bread and butter species.
Yeah.
But they're great to eat, right?
Yeah.
Like, you can't really beat a flathead.
Yeah. Oh, flathead is just like a cream
it's the
to
best,
a cake.
Isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. So you've got some kids yourself.
Yes.
And I see from your social media that they're out fishing with you as well.
Yes.
So you're creating that next generation
Yep.
of, I guess, outdoors passion within your own children.
Yes, I am.
Yeah. And I suppose what I really like about you is that there's a, I guess you can sense your responsibility in terms of sustainable food, and you show respect to the animals, and if we eat meat, something has to die for us to eat that food, and I think it really comes through with the respect that you show towards animals, particularly with fish and with the animals that you shoot when you're hunting.
Yeah.
And I think the more that we represent that in a good manner, it gives less ammunition to the people who are, would rather we didn't do that.
Every time we're out there, we're a role model.
That's right.
And we need to do things correctly and behave respectfully outside, whether towards humans and towards nature.
Absolutely.
Because if we don't, we're representing the sport in a bad way then.
Well, we're giving the anti-fishing or anti-hunting
more ammunition.
Brigade more ammunition.
Yes.
And, there's a big Greens following in this country, and I think what we do, but also what we represent on social media.
Absolutely. And I have a few friends who are Greens, and they respect everything I do, and therefore what I do because of how I do it. And they've told me, Kadz, we really love the way you do things because you do really care and you don't want to harm anything in the way. And I am a big animal lover as well.
Yeah, well, before we started filming, you said you still feel bad when you take an animal's life.
Absolutely, yeah.
Which is, and I get that as well. I shoot animals, and I'm an animal lover. So for a lot of people, that can be quite hard to comprehend.
Yeah.
But I think, particularly when we're shooting feral animals, we're actually improving the quality for our native animals, right?
And giving them a chance to survive, because if we did not, their food is going to drop down, a lot. Because if we did not shoot those animals that are around there, we won't see all this greenery behind us.
Yeah, absolutely.
At the moment. Yeah.
And it's, that's the reality of it, right?
Yeah.
Like a deer is an introduced species, and every bit of vegetation that they eat is less for our native animals.
Yeah.
And I think there's also an element to a lot of that pest control, the damage that a wild pig can do to the Australian bush. And I think what people have got to remember is they're not meant to be here.
No.
They're only here because we brought
Humans
them here,
brought them
right?
in. Yeah.
The
pigs, the cats, the foxes, the goats, everything that's not... So everything that's hooved is not supposed to be in Australia.
Yeah, that's right. Hey.
Yeah.
And, you look at the damage that feral cats and wild dogs do, and it's just unbelievable, right? The amount of damage that one feral animal can do.
They kill all the birds, possums, anything that is small, they'll hunt it down.
So were you hunting as a kid, or when did you start hunting?
So I used to watch my dad. I didn't really hunt, but but we used to help him because he was a bird hunter. So
Yeah, okay.
every time he shot the birds, we'll go collect them and watch Mum, defeather them. And
What sort of birds, like bronze wings and that sort
yeah,
of stuff?
things like that. Back then when it was fine to
Yep.
shoot them, but now they're protected, so
Are
you
they?
can't. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So bronzewing is a delicious bird, but please don't shoot them.
There you go.
Please.
Not allowed to shoot the bronze wings.
They're stunning birds. They are delicious though.
Yeah,
I
right.
remember eating them when I was young. But mind you, I'm 43 now, so it was way, way past the law when it came out. But
Yeah, okay.
yeah, we would go collect them and Mum would clean them and cook them, and yeah, we watched that growing up.
Yeah.
But I took it upon myself after I had my 4 kids and they were a bit older. My youngest was about maybe 4 or 5, and I said, okay, now they're old enough, because I didn't have much around me anymore that hunted. But when I did become closer to people that did it, I thought, you know what, my kids are older, I can bring them with me.
Yeah.
And from then on, they were always with me.
Yeah, okay.
All the time. And but beforehand, I had practice shooting when I was younger. I knew my aims, I knew what to do. I watched my dad.
Sure.
So, but I kept practicing on paper for a long time, even though I felt confident, but I needed to make sure and agree with my own self that
Yeah.
I am ready.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
because, as we chatted about
Yeah.
before, it's about the ethics of it, right? You want to make
Exactly.
sure that if you're going to kill an animal and take its life,
Yeah.
that you want it to be swift and you don't
Exactly.
want that animal to suffer.
Yeah, because it's cruel,
Yeah.
and I'm far from, or I try my best not to implement cruelty towards animals.
Of course,
you know?
yeah. And it's that
Yeah.
respect that I guess,
Yeah.
we've all got to take some responsibility for if we
Yeah.
are going to go out and hunt animals.
Absolutely.
But I think there's the thing for you is you're doing it for food for your family,
Yes.
right?
For
And that's-
food, first of all, but later on throughout the years, I started doing it for conservation as well.
Yes.
Yeah, because I don't eat foxes and cats,
Yep.
things like that, or dogs. And that was a bit of a tricky, within myself and family-wise, that do I agree on it? Do I kill an animal for, not for food? Like how I was debating with my own self,
Yes.
consciously, and, I found it difficult at first.
Yep.
But then I understood, I educated myself, I learned more why we need to shoot them, what the purpose behind it is, and
Yes.
and the impact they have in the biodiversity within Australia. So yeah, I shot my first fox, and that was really emotional because they are a beautiful creature.
They are, and this is
it's
such
a
it's a
beautiful
tough
animal.
one for everyone, right? Because
Yeah,
an animal can look cute,
yeah,
but it's not meant to be here.
No.
And for anyone that's under any illusion about the damage that a fox does to native animals in Australia, just do a
Yeah.
little bit of research on the internet and you'll see exactly how.
and livestock.
Yeah, and livestock,
Yeah.
and when you get into the wild dogs and the damage
Yeah.
that they do to livestock, it's really quite horrific.
Yeah,
Cats are another thing
Oh,
that are
yeah.
just they're not supposed to be here, and the
No.
damage that they do is
No.
unbelievable.
yeah, and the ones in the wild are completely different than the domesticated cats that you see in suburbia. Their heads are larger, their bodies are larger, even their paws are huge. So they're able to hunt and be successful first go because of how big their paws are.
They're a super efficient killer,
Yes,
aren't they?
yeah, and their heads are huge, like very heavy cats.
Yeah, my
Yeah.
wife Nat used to work at the RSPCA shelter
Yeah.
in Chullora, and she's told me stories about feral cats being
Yeah.
brought in and just how psychotic these animals
Yeah.
are. Like they're not like your little cute cat that's at home. And I guess just a little public service announcement
Yeah.
for any cat owners: please keep them inside. They don't
Yes.
need to be out and about.
Absolutely.
And they're proficient breeders and they're very proficient killers.
Yeah.
So they just shouldn't be in our
Yeah.
native environments, right? So in terms of your hunting journey for food, so
Yeah.
what sort of animals do you hunt for food?
For food, so first of all, my favourite is goats.
Yep.
And then deer. I love deer. They're the two main sources of our red meat.
Yep.
Rabbits, but I don't eat rabbits. My son does.
You don't like them?
No.
Yeah. Okay.
it's just the flavor. I'm not a big fan of the flavor.
Can be quite strong. Can't
Yeah,
it?
it is really strong. And as I said earlier, with the fish as well, I like that,
Yeah,
that
mild flavour.
yeah. And
Well,
same with red meats.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Well, and then that's where, venison
Yeah.
can be quite gamey.
Depends.
But depending on the
season.
Yep.
During the rut, it can be really strong because of all the testosterone and hormonal, balances that are playing up. But if I am going to eat, which I do always collect the meat, I eat the backstrap because it's the less,
doesn't have
gamey.
a stronger flavour.
Yeah.
So do you want to just explain for anyone who's maybe not so familiar what the rut is?
Yeah. So the rut is a mating season, and it's usually between from March till end of May, sometimes towards June, but if you're lucky. And it's when you start hearing their noises. You hear the male deer either roaring or calling out a female, and that's when they start breeding. And that's the best and easiest time to hunt deer because they're not as aware what's around them. They're just focusing on the females, going for the female.
Yep.
And they don't really hear you around as much.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So they get a bit crazy in their mating season and they become a little bit more bold, or maybe they're distracted and they're easier to hunt.
Oh, yes,
right?
Absolutely. And then towards Christmas time, you start seeing the little ones, they give birth to them. And the best timing to eat the deer or hunt the deer is in summer.
Yeah, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
The flavour of the meat, it's less gamier. It's just nice. It's perfect.
Without the hormones? Less hormones in the meat, so it's not as strong.
It's and the meat is not as tough as before. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
And is there a difference between male and female deer in terms of taste?
Yeah.
So the males are a bit stronger, right?
They are, definitely. Yeah.
And big old bucks.
Yeah,
I'm
too
assuming.
chewy.
Yeah.
Too
so
chewy.
It's an interesting thing, right? And that's where there's a bit of a differentiation between a trophy hunter and someone hunting for meat, right?
Yeah.
So you don't necessarily want the biggest, gnarliest looking buck that you can find, right? Because it's not going to taste as good.
No.
And
but if it comes with big antlers, it's a bonus.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I've seen there's a few antlers around your property here. So there's a few different species of deer in Australia, right?
Yes.
So what have we got here?
So we've got the chital, which is the axis. And then you've got sambar, rusa, fallow, red, and sometimes the odd wapiti. But that's, you'll find them in Victoria, but not much.
Yeah, okay.
They mix with the red, so sometimes you can't really tell.
Yeah, okay.
But the larger reds usually have some wapiti in them.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And is that from New Zealand?
Yeah.
Okay. And in those different species of deer, do they taste different?
Yes, they do.
What's your favourite one?
My favourite is sambar.
Yeah, really?
Yeah, and then my second favourite is fallow.
Yeah, okay. Have you eaten a chital?
Yes, I have.
Yeah?
It's really nice.
Yeah.
It is nice, but because I don't get to sauce it as much as I want to, I can't really, put it in a bracket of where it's...
They're in Queensland predominantly, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. There is some in New South Wales and a lot in South Australia.
Yeah, okay.
Heaps in South Australia, but a lot in Queensland.
So how did you... Obviously, if you're hunting for meat, then you've got to shoot the animal.
Yeah.
But then you need to field dress it.
Yes.
You need to process that meat. How did you learn all of those skills?
Watching my dad.
Really?
Yeah. Watching others as well. Watching YouTube videos just to, see other methods. Just I like learning how every person does it because everyone does it differently.
Of course.
Very similar, but there's some different methods or techniques or an idea that person felt that it worked for them.
Yep.
So I try to implement it, into the way I do it at first. And now I have my own way.
Yeah.
And
that's
like
it.
within half an hour, I'm done.
You pick the bits that you like from everyone else's techniques and form your own.
Yeah.
So it's quite a process, right?
Absolutely. And you don't stop learning. And no matter how much you know, and I always say openly that this type of, let's call it an industry, even though I don't think it's an industry, it's a way of life.
Yes.
You'll never stop learning.
Yeah, that's absolutely
You're
right.
You're always learning something.
And I think what you just said is so pertinent for you.
Yeah.
This is a way of life,
A
right?
way of life.
This isn't a hobby.
No.
This is what you do. This is who you are, right, as a person.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's
Whether it's
awesome.
hunting and fishing.
Yeah, it's so good.
Yeah.
And I think that the best part about it is you're providing food for your family that's purely organic, right? There's
Yeah.
no pesticides. There's none of that stuff. There's no
No.
antibiotics in the meat.
Yeah, and no animal cruelty
No.
involved. I try my best not to purchase meat from the shops.
Really?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
I do my best not to do that. And if I am sourcing lamb, I get it directly from a farmer.
Yeah, okay. So you know that it's been treated well.
Like I'll slaughter it.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Or if I know a friend of mine that is at the farm, they'll do it for me.
That must be quite confronting in some respects.
It is, but again, I grew up around it.
Yeah.
We saw the slaughtering of sheep and goats and things like that, even when I visited Lebanon. So watching a cow getting slaughtered was really confronting, but the technique that they used I felt a sense of calmness in me as well. I accepted it because they weren't harming the animal beforehand, very calm, talking to it, very calmly, and it will sit down and be ready, which was really interesting. And now I use that technique with the sheep as well.
That's so fascinating. And I think, as a meat eater myself, I've always, as I said, I'm an animal lover at heart, but you need to accept that if you're going to eat meat, that something has to die to provide you with that meal, right? And I think the more that we can acknowledge that and teach our kids that, there's a bit of a disconnection in modern society, right? People just think meat comes from the supermarket.
No.
It doesn't. It's coming from a living animal, right?
Yes.
And something has to die for us to eat it. And I think the more that our kids know that and accept it and understand it, the better we'll all be.
Absolutely.
And having that respect for the food that we're eating.
Yeah, 100%. And it makes them who they are in the future.
Yeah.
Yeah,
well
by
adjusted.
watching us doing the right thing and being, kind to everything that's living.
Yes.
We're building our future from how we do things.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you mentioned that you like eating goats.
Yes.
So do I, actually.
I love goats.
A lot of people in Australia particularly don't eat goat
No.
and think, oh, why would you eat that?
Yeah.
But it's beautiful meat,
It
right?
is.
And overseas, it's really quite common to eat goats. It's
Yeah.
just in Australia where I think we're a bit spoilt with...
Yeah, I find it really close with the tenderness of it to lamb.
Yeah.
Very close to that. It's very, but the flavors are different, but not chewy at all.
Yeah, beautiful. And is it the same with goats in terms of the females are better to eat than the big males?
Yeah.
They can be a bit smelly, can't they?
Oh gosh, because they wee on themselves.
Yeah, right.
And also that wee penetrates into their skin and meat. That's why it becomes really, the smell of the meat when you're butchering it is not nice.
So when you're taking an animal for your family, you're quite selective in terms of which animal that you're taking?
So if my dog needs meat, I'll shoot the billies.
Yep.
Yeah, when you see a photo of me with a billy goat, that's for my dog.
Yeah, how good.
We do still take the back strap though, because it's the same as the females. It's not as bad.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Right. I guess because they're not weighing on their back as much
Exactly.
as they are on the underside,
Exactly.
right? And I mean, how good's that? So not only are you providing organic meat for your family, but also for your dog. So your dog gets the benefits of it as well.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Do you take your dog hunting with you?
No, I used to, but then I realised he's very sensitive to the firearms.
Yeah, okay.
And just seeing his reaction the second time, because the first time I didn't understand what was going on. I thought maybe he hurt himself. But the second time it happened, I realised and recognised, oh my goodness, this is the sound of the firearm.
Yeah, right. And he's just getting anxious.
Anxiety and everything. And I said, no, that's it, no more.
Yeah, and I think not every dog, like people, not every dog enjoys hunting, right?
No.
Some of them are just happy being domestic.
He knows when I go hunting and he gets so excited knowing that I'm going to bring back meat.
I was going to say, he knows
he
that
loves
there's going to be something coming home.
Especially when I wear my camo, straight away.
He knows.
Yeah, he starts waddling and...
That's too good.
Yeah.
So, you've done a lot of hunting in Australia, but you've also hunted overseas, haven't you?
In New Zealand.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and that's the only place I would accept to go to hunt.
Yeah?
I don't agree on going somewhere further than that because I consider New Zealand like home.
Yep.
And they have the same problem because it happened at the same time, Australia and New Zealand, when they brought in the animals. If you read into history, it's quite sad because it was more for sport.
Yep.
But yeah, I refuse to go to Africa or any other country because I am not a trophy hunter. I'm not an exotic hunter. As I said, I source it for food and that's about it. But yeah, I say every country has their own people and they can look after their own country.
Of course, yeah. And I guess that's
Yeah.
they're like the custodians, right? It's
Yes,
their,
absolutely.
Their land, it's their culture,
Absolutely.
and they can do what they
But
need to do.
at the end of the day, each to their own.
Yeah.
You know, some consider it as a sport. Good on you. You know, you're still doing the right thing, hopefully, by abiding by the law and doing the right thing towards the animal as well, and society and the, you know, traditions of the country that you go to. Just always make sure you're doing the right thing, and you should be fine.
Yeah, that's right. And, you know, you mentioned trophy hunting in Africa, and I mean, it really upsets me when I see some of those photos of, you know, unfortunately, usually like rich old white men with, you know, dead lions or elephants or giraffes. And it just, I can't comprehend why you'd want to do that.
Yeah.
There's a whole argument about how it's a conservation,
Yeah.
you know, it helps with conservation, but I'm sorry, I don't buy into that.
Yeah.
You know, like those are native animals in those environments. So shooting them is not helping anyone.
No, if they were in large numbers, I can understand that part. Like with kangaroos here, if they're in large numbers, you can go get the permit and you're able to shoot them. And I think each country has their own laws and rules. And in Africa, you know, their numbers are, you know,
That's right.
dying.
A lot of them are endangered or threatened, right?
If it's an injured animal, by all means,
Yep.
get it out of its misery.
Yeah.
You know, don't let it suffer. But if it's not injured and it's a native animal,
And paying $100,000 to fly in and shoot this
or
thing to take a
unless
photo
you're
with it, right?
shooting a big animal for a community that is, you know, not wealthy and need food, and you're gonna, you know, feed the needy.
Yeah, I understand
That's
that.
okay. There's all different sides to things, which is understandable. But for me, I can't do it.
And I mean, no one's eating a lion, right?
No, no.
So just don't. Yeah. Anyway, we could go down a rabbit hole there, but you know, I think it's in the Australian hunting community anyway. I think the vast majority of people share the same sentiments in terms of hunting for food, hunting feral animals.
We're lucky.
Yeah, we are lucky.
Yeah.
And as much as, you know, they are introduced pests, they're also a good source of food for us.
Absolutely.
So when you went to New Zealand hunting, there was some slightly different animals over there that you were chasing. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Oh, the Aropa ram.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness. Because I love goats and lamb and all that. I just wanted to taste that specific type of sheep, you know, because they are in that category all, you know.
Right.
And it was really nice.
You shot a pretty good one, didn't you?
Yeah, it was beautiful. Yeah. And I call them the ghosts of the sheep.
Yeah, really? They're pretty challenging.
Very hard to hunt. Yeah. Really, really hard. You know, you get to one spot and they know, they can sense you're there and they'll just keep moving.
So they're an introduced species over there as well, are they?
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So where are they native to, those animals?
I'm not sure. I think it's towards might be, you know, the Persia side of the world, maybe.
Right.
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'm actually not sure.
And so they're at quite high elevation. Is that the ones that are up in the mountains?
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so they do go down and up, but yeah, we had to walk all the way up and get to it.
Yeah, right. So was that a guided hunt that you went on over there?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was on public land though.
Right.
Yeah, it was on public land. Yeah.
So have they got a similar system to our restricted game system in New Zealand, or, you know, can anyone hunt public land over there?
No, not anyone. You have to have all the legalities, you know, with the, you know, paperwork and everything. Yeah, you got to do the right thing.
Yeah, okay.
But I'm not sure exactly with their laws. I need to read up on it. I was relying on my guide, which
That's
was
all right.
good. Yeah.
I know we've got a couple of New Zealand viewers out there, so you guys can fill us in on
yes,
what the
please.
what
If
the
I'm
go
wrong, please correct me.
Nah, that's all good. And they've got a couple of other sort of weird and wonderful animals up in the mountains.
Yeah, they do. But I wasn't looking for that.
Yeah, just that one specific animal. Yeah, right.
Because the others are more considered as a game, like a hunt, like a trophy animal.
Are they what are they called? Those
tar and
goat-looking things?
Yeah, the tar and the other one. I don't know the name. I forgot the name.
Ah, right.
Yeah, but the tar is really a sport.
Yeah, okay. And they're those big shaggy looking things,
yes,
right? Yeah.
They're stunning though. They're stunning.
What are you doing?
He got off the lead.
How?
He got tangled and then got himself out.
Oh my.
That's good.
Please hold. We're trying to film a TV show here, Barry.
Oh, he full slipped out of it.
Yeah, I'm like, why the hell is the dog up there and he's not on his lead? He's like, I'm getting bored.
Oh, that's so cute.
All right, where were we? So yeah, so
The
tar. They're you're saying they're more of a sports.
Yeah.
So they don't eat them.
I know a few people that do, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
To be
okay.
honest, yeah.
And they're right up in the mountains.
Yeah, they
right?
are.
Like I've seen some
Yeah.
photos of them, and people are in like snow-capped mountains. It
Yeah.
looks like the Himalayas. And
Yeah, or like on ridge lines, and they're just hiking on that, the point of the ridge. And yeah, I've got a fear of heights. I do go high,
Yeah.
but I would not go on that kind of height.
Yeah, I share that same fear
Yeah,
of heights.
yeah.
I'm more than happy to leave that to people who are a bit braver than
Yeah,
me.
that's it. So kudos to you.
Yeah,
whoever does that.
exactly. My friend Belle over in New Zealand, I know
Yeah.
you get amongst a bit of that. So yeah, more power to you.
Oh, good on her.
Now in New Zealand, they also have really big deer, right?
Yes, they do.
Big red deer,
Yeah.
predominantly.
Yeah, I've seen
Yeah.
while I was there,
Yeah.
but I wasn't really chasing them.
You just had one thing
Yeah.
in mind.
So I shot a female fallow, a fallow doe, and the Arawapa ram.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. That's pretty cool. Would
Yeah.
you go back and do more hunting in New Zealand, do you think?
Maybe in the future.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe I'll take my kids with me. And,
Yeah, nice.
stay in the bush in some cabin or something. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful country, isn't it?
beautiful. It's so safe. There's nothing that's going to kill you out
Yeah,
there.
no brown snakes.
No.
Yeah, no tiger snakes. None of that
nothing
stuff.
like that. You can sleep out on the grass and you're fine.
Yeah, it's,
Yeah,
it's very
it's really
different
cool.
to. Sorry, my dog is just trashing the joint behind us here.
Which is entertaining.
Nat, can you control the dog, please?
I'm trying.
Control the dog and the baby and everything else while we're doing this. And talking of red deer, you've shot some pretty good red deer here,
Yeah, I
haven't
have.
you? I've seen
I
some
have.
photos.
Yeah.
So are they in New South Wales as well?
Yep. So, towards Victoria.
Okay.
Yeah. I won't say exactly where,
That's
but
fine.
yeah.
We don't want you to give away your spots.
Yeah.
So they're at a higher elevation, right,
yeah.
up in the mountains?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And around here, so we're in, again, we won't say exactly where we are, but we're
Yeah.
in New South Wales.
Yes.
And we're on a property that you own.
Yes, I do.
And you do a lot of hunting on this property.
I do. I
Yeah,
do.
So what are the sort of animals that you encounter around here?
At the moment, we're having a lot of pig troubles.
Yeah, okay.
So shooting the pigs is my main priority
Yep.
before the food. And because they've got a disease called brucellosis
Yep.
as well. So I try my best, especially with all the cuts and things I've got on my hands from bush regen, try my best not to touch them because it is contagious to humans.
Yeah, and you can get very sick from that, can't
Yeah, so if you're too young or too old, it can be lethal.
you? Yeah, okay.
But with our ages, we're fine. But yeah, it's pretty bad kind of sickness. You don't want
Yeah.
to have it.
Barry, stop. Please stop.
So cute.
He is, but he's a menace. Barry, stop.
He wants his mama.
Yeah, I know. He just wants to be. Hey,
It's okay.
hold on a second. I'm going to fix this.
Oh, nice.
All right, we've got a new guest on the podcast.
Yes.
My little dog Barry, who's a Jack Russell pup, and he cannot be left unattended without barking his head off. So rather than making annoying background noise, he's now part of the show.
Yes. Good on him.
So pigs around here, you're not using them for meat. It's
No.
purely pest control.
Yes.
And they do a lot of damage
Absolutely.
to native, environments.
Yeah.
But you've got some food available on this property
Oh
as well.
yeah, we've got feral goats and deer. You got the hare and the rabbits.
Mm-hmm.
They're the main sources of the red meats
Yeah,
and white
okay.
meat. But then yeah, you got the foxes and the cats and
Yep.
things like that.
And driving in here, there's a lot of big properties around here with a
Yeah.
lot of livestock. So I
Yes.
guess it's really important that the foxes and dogs and cats and
Yeah,
that
keep
stuff
it
that's not meant to be here
maintained.
are controlled.
Yeah.
So you've hunted for a long time. Have you had any particular experiences hunting that have really stood out to you in terms of memories that you've made?
Oh yeah. My first big red deer.
Yep.
I had my son with me, and he was about, God no, I'm just trying to remember, about between 10 and 12. I can't remember exactly. And there was a ridge that we had to jump from to another ridge.
Yep.
And it's a big drop. So if you slip, that's it, you're gone.
Yeah, right.
And it was raining then. And I made him jump before me because I want to make sure he's safe.
Yep.
And as I started jumping, my leg slipped and he grabbed me and pulled me to the other side. If it wasn't for him, I think I would have been gone. So that deer now sits on my wall. Every time I look at it, I appreciate life and I appreciate everything I've got. It's a memory I'll never forget, and it's a story I always tell.
That is absolutely amazing. And I mean,
it's quite dangerous out there, so you've got to be very careful with how you are, you know, doing things outside.
Yep. Yeah, you've got to be conscious, especially in the Australian bush, right? Where there's a lot of things that want to kill us out there.
It can be quite deceiving at times with the ground that you're walking on. It can look flat, but then next minute it drops because the grass is longer.
Yeah, and I should rephrase that. Nothing wants to kill us except for crocodiles. But, you know, there's definitely a lot of dangerous snakes and there's, you know, a lot of really, I guess, treacherous terrain out there.
Yes.
So it's not a joke, right? You've got to be quite safety conscious.
Absolutely.
And you do a lot of hunting by yourself?
Yes, I do. A lot of solo hunting. I used to do solo hunting in state forest, but I stopped because of an incident. And for my safety, I don't go alone anymore.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Was that the one that you posted about when a bullet went over your head?
Yes. Ever since then, I stopped going by myself.
Yeah, that's pretty scary. I remember reading that when you posted something about it.
But what's funny, it happened and then I continued eating.
So do you want to tell the story of what happened there?
All right. So I was tracking a deer, you know, fresh droppings, fresh hoof prints. I'm like, oh gosh, this is really fresh. Kept walking, and I got tired, so I thought, let me sit down, have a rest, have some, you know, biscuits. And as I'm opening, you know, I open the packet and I hear a car drive in. I go down to, you know, pick an Oreo, and then all of a sudden I hear shots. You know, a shot went off and that shot came towards me, and I'm oh gosh, and I'm wearing blaze orange, and I had, you know, a few blaze orange markings on me. But then after I ate the Oreo and I turned off my camera, they shot again, and then I watched them pull that deer that I was tracking into their car and drive out, and I think they were poachers, unfortunately.
Yeah, right. So that's public land,
yes,
so
public
state
land.
forest.
Yes.
So there's, for anyone outside of New South Wales or that doesn't know about this, we've got a
booking system.
Yeah, a booking system, right?
Yeah.
So we can get a restricted game hunting license.
Yes, which is the R license.
Yep.
You get that, and then you get access to an app on your phone, and that gives you the ability to book your hunts, to see what's available. Each forest's got a minimum and maximum of numbers that people are allowed to be in there while hunting. You got to register your car on that app as well. If you've got a pet dog, everything like that. And during your hunt, you have to abide by all hunting rules.
Yes.
Before and after your booking, you can be a normal civilian in the forest.
That's right. And I guess when you say you thought that these people were poachers, meaning they didn't have the license, they weren't doing the right thing.
Correct.
And it is a big issue, right? In Australia with people hunting illegally. And, you know, even driving in here today, I saw a lot of signs on property saying no shooting. And I sort of think, why do you need a sign on your property to say that? But it's because, unfortunately, a lot of people aren't doing the right thing.
And this area used to be very prone to poachers.
Really?
Before it got sold out.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Beforehand, a lot of pig doggers and, you know, shooters. And I found a couple of arrows in my property when I first bought it.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And, it's unfortunate. But now, thankfully, it's dropped down in numbers with those kind of incidents, because there's a lot of people that live here now, which is good.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what you just described about what happened to you in the state forest, I mean, that would have been pretty scary.
Oh,
but then you kept eating your Oreos, so you were scared, but you weren't that scared, right?
No.
So when you say now that you don't hunt solo, your son you do a lot of hunting with?
Yes, he's my companion. He's my hunting partner.
Yep.
We do it together most of the times. But if we're here, if I came with my daughter, I just go up by myself for about 2-3 hours.
Yep.
Yeah. Or on friends' properties, I go solo as well, because I know that
controlled environment.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting what you were saying about the booking system for the state forests. And I've got my R license as well, and I've looked at some of those forests, and 50 hunters could be allowed to book the same forest, and you don't know where they're going to be, right?
Yeah.
So the only real safety you've got is wearing that
blaze orange. Yeah.
I'm just going to dispose of this dog because he's being a pest. Seriously. What do they say about never working with children or animals? We've got children and animals here. Control yourself, Barry.
But that's how they'll learn, being out.
Oh. Yeah, you ruined it because
So
you wouldn't
cute.
sit still. You got ants in your pants. All right, so one of the other things that I really want to talk to you about
Yeah.
is your advocacy work within the firearms industry and within the firearms community.
Yeah.
So you've been a really big promoter of trying to get more women involved in shooting,
Yes.
both target and
hunting. Yeah.
And you've actually worked for the SSAA previously.
Yeah.
So you actually ran some women's try-shoot events.
Oh yeah, many.
Yeah.
Many. And I was the founder of the SSAA Sydney Ladies Shooting Program.
Oh, amazing.
So I was
didn't know that.
the creator. It was very successful. It's still running and I still volunteer. So I try to go out and help out, make this, my baby, succeed.
Yeah, of course.
But yeah, my passion is to see more women out there shooting, not necessarily hunting, but just, feeling confident that they're able to use a firearm in a safe environment and not feel afraid of it, because it's up to you as the person who's holding the firearm that can cause damage. It's not the actual firearm itself.
Isn't that the age-old saying, right? Guns don't kill people,
No.
people kill people.
Exactly. And another thing I always tell people is our sport will grow if more women are in the sport, because their children are going to see their mothers shooting and they're going to see it as a safe sport, not, confronting or, scared of it.
Yeah, not having that fear.
And our numbers will grow.
And I can tell that you have had an impact, because I shoot at St. Mary's, which is a SSAA property, and I've noticed even in the time I've been shooting that there's a lot more women involved.
Yeah.
There's couples that are going and shooting targets together, and a lot more girls competing, which I think is great. My wife and one of our friends actually went to one of your try-shoot nights many years ago.
That's how I noticed too. I was like,
You recognised that?
yes, I did.
Yeah.
I did.
There you go. Well,
And I'm like, do I say something or not? Maybe not, because there's a lot of people that look like each other.
Yeah, well, it was funny because
Oh,
when
wow.
I was telling Nat that we were going to shoot this podcast, and I said, you've met her before, and she's like, what? I said, yeah, she ran the try-shoot down. Oh, yeah. So,
What a small world.
It is a small world, particularly in the shooting community, right? And I think that work that you're doing is so impressive in terms of, even now that you're not working directly for SSAA, you're still volunteering, you're still passionate about it.
Absolutely. I love it. As much as you can make a difference, whether it's by arts and crafts or cooking or, building a car or teaching women how to service a car, because I service my car. Anything that's little, if you're passionate about it, try to teach other people.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Grow
so
it.
good. Yeah. So you were also involved at a committee level with the SSAA.
Yes.
Yeah. So what does that involve?
A lot of planning and ideas and trying to bring more people into the sport, or with building more ranges and seeing what we could do to make a difference.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a lot of work.
There is a lot of work.
Can't really say much, but there's a lot of work and it's very hard.
Yeah, and I think just reading a lot of the commentary out there about the SSAA, it gets a bad rap in the firearms community.
It's because they don't see what's going on behind closed doors, and we all did. We go through hell trying to make everybody happy, We are working hard in the background, but sometimes with the law, it can stop you on your tracks with all those ideas you've got. And not a lot of people understand that side of things.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right.
Because we're not the law, we're not the government. We don't have the say.
Nah, and I think one of the biggest threats to the firearms community in Australia is legislation, right?
Yeah.
And organisations like SSAA are critical to being that advocacy, the advocates and the voice for the firearms community. So I wish that we could work together instead of people picking on each other and criticising other organisations. And I feel like until such time as we have a more cohesive voice, we're going to continue to have more and more restrictions.
Yeah. And I always used to say to people, you're complaining, why don't you get up and do something? Show that you're willing to help, volunteer, do something, grow the sport in that way, that the more numbers of volunteers we have out there, the stronger we are.
And you did that.
Yeah.
You went and you put your money where your mouth was,
Yes,
right?
I did.
You went and
I still
got
do
involved.
it. And
Yeah.
if I did not really know that SSAA does work hard, I would not represent or stand by them.
Yeah, absolutely.
honest,
And,
yeah.
you know, something that we haven't mentioned
Yeah.
is that you've got quite a big public persona in
Yeah.
terms of you've got a lot of social media followers,
Yeah.
and I think a lot of people look to you as, well, they look up to you in terms of the work that you do. But as you said, if you're going to be aligned with SSAA,
Yeah.
you need to believe in what they're doing.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly. And yeah, if people don't agree with it, each to their own, you know.
Yeah, of course.
And if you don't agree with it, but you want a difference, to make a difference, get up, stand up, put your hands up, say, I'm ready,
Yeah.
you know. Don't just be all talk.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
this is the problem, right? I was having a conversation with a mate just a couple of days ago. The way that society seems to be now,
Yeah.
everyone's got a really loud voice
Yeah.
on social media
Yeah.
and on the internet.
Yeah,
But it's easy to sit there and criticise people or organisations, say what you don't like
Yeah.
online. But if you truly believe in something, go and make a difference.
Yeah.
And I think in
Yeah.
the firearms community in particular, we are under threat.
yeah,
A large portion
Absolutely.
of the population
Yeah.
don't like guns
yeah,
and don't want us to have
Yeah.
firearms, despite, you know, the vast
Yeah.
majority of us being responsible
I know.
firearm owners. So I think the more that we can band together and support those organisations, the better the future of our sport's going to be.
yes, absolutely.
So in terms of hunting in Australia, is there anything that you haven't done yet that you want to do? Is there anything on your wish list?
No, not really.
Yeah, right.
No.
Yeah. You're
I'm
just
I'm
content?
happy. Yeah, I'm content. I'm happy with what I've done and where I am at the moment. And yeah, if for example I'm out here, if I shoot something, it's a bonus. If not, I'm happy.
Yeah, well, it's
Yeah.
so peaceful here. It's a
It is.
beautiful little spot that
It
you've got,
is.
and we really appreciate you having us here.
Oh, you're welcome.
So, when we talk about fishing, you
Yeah.
do a lot of fishing on land, right?
Yeah,
You
I
don't have
do.
a boat,
I used to, but
Yeah,
not
okay.
anymore. Yeah.
but you're doing land-based fishing
Land.
around Sydney.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And I find it even more. I appreciate it more because
Yeah.
it's harder.
It is harder.
So much harder.
Yep.
And even if it's a small fish, you're cheering, like you caught something.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's better when you get something legal.
Yeah, of course, and particularly when you're doing it for food.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
as we sort of mentioned earlier, fishing in Sydney is hard.
It is.
Right?
It is.
It's the most populated place in Australia. There's
Yep.
a lot of fishing pressure.
Yep. And some places the water's dirty, you can't really consume the fish. And so I try to, I tend to avoid those kind of areas because I am
course.
fishing for food. But yeah, there's some places I'll just say it, Kurnell,
Yep.
that are clean areas that you can really fish out of there. Bream are really
Yeah.
good there. But then, I go all the way to, further than Central Coast as
Yep.
well. And then I go down south,
Yep.
you know.
So you're travelling to
I
get
do.
different,
Yeah.
different terrain, different
Yeah.
species, and a better quality of fish, maybe.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Cleaner water, cleaner fish.
Yeah. Well, look,
Better tasting.
Yeah, of course. And I mean, I grew up in Sydney, and I was there
Yeah.
for a long time, and having moved up the Central Coast now,
Yeah.
like just the difference in fishing pressure.
Yeah.
Like there's a better class of fish up
Oh,
there.
absolutely.
And
Yeah.
the water is cleaner. There's less pressure on it, and I
Yep.
think the further you go north, the better it gets. Right?
Yeah, yeah.
So have you done any fishing outside of New South Wales? Have you got any trips interstate?
No,
No.
not for fishing.
Is that something that you think you might do in the
Yeah,
future?
definitely. If I can band hunting and fishing together,
Yeah.
that'll be great.
What about up north? Maybe a bit of a Barra and Buffalo
Maybe,
trip.
yeah. Oh, that I have not done.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
Yeah, it would
I would
be.
like to try buffalo.
They're a scary animal.
Like, I wonder how it tastes like.
I've eaten buffalo.
Yeah?
In Thailand. Yeah.
Okay. Is it like beef or?
Yeah, it's just like a strong
Stronger
flavoured
flavour.
beef. So maybe you wouldn't like it, but
I don't mind beef.
yeah.
But
I think seeing some of the buffalo hunts,
Yeah.
I've watched some videos on YouTube, and they're a pretty scary animal,
Yeah,
right? Like
I
they're a
know.
big, aggressive animal.
yeah, it's like if you shoot the pig and you don't shoot it correctly. I've seen videos and they come at you.
Yeah.
So I can imagine the buffalo.
Yeah,
I've seen videos.
Yeah, big scary animal coming at
is.
you. And one other thing, just that made me think about that, because a mate of mine just told me he's going up to do a buffalo hunt shortly, but with a
Nice.
bow,
Ooh.
which I think is somewhat insane. But that's my
Yeah.
opinion. I noticed
Wow.
on your Instagram that you've been doing a bit of practice with the
Compound.
bow.
Yeah, I didn't bring it this time.
Yeah.
But I'm getting better.
Yep.
I'm getting better. I went out for like, I think it was 3 times hunting with it.
Mm-hmm.
I would get really close, but it wasn't successful. I never pulled.
Yeah, right. And is that because you don't have the confidence in your own abilities yet?
No,
or-
I am confident. But as soon as like I'm trying to start pulling, it's gone.
Yeah, right.
So I still need to learn to get more quieter and learn the techniques, but I feel like I'm getting better.
And that's, I mean, hunting an animal
Yeah.
at all is a challenge,
Yeah.
but hunting an animal with a bow
Yeah.
is next level,
The
right?
last time I went, I was on all fours trying to carry the bow and with an arrow in there,
Yeah.
and you're on fours and you know you're going bit by bit, and then you crouch down further, and then you look up and it's looking at you, you go back down. The back pain I
Oh,
had
really?
afterwards, it was horrific.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, a lot of back work is good, I reckon,
Yep.
for bow hunting.
Yeah.
Strengthening your back is really important.
Yeah, and it's very
Yeah.
physical, right?
It is, it is.
And I think, you know, just for anyone who's not, I guess, as familiar with it, what sort of distance roughly are you taking a deer or a goat with a rifle
Yeah.
versus a bow?
So with a rifle, I try 50 to like 20 to 50 meters.
Yep.
The longest I've shot was 250.
Wow.
But with a bow, I was trying to get 15 to 20 meters.
So you've got to get a lot closer to the
Yeah.
animal. So it's a lot more challenging
Yeah.
to get in there without the animal realizing you're there, right?
So the last one that I got close to with the bow was about 25 meters.
Yep.
And that was good shooting, but there was a horse behind us.
Ah, right.
And that horse made sure that we don't shoot.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
He was looking out for his...
Oh, yeah, he kept, you know, I don't know what they call it, but, you know,
So was that a wild horse?
no.
Yeah, right.
But he escaped from the property next door, and he was on that property, and yeah, he kept putting his
He was
legs up.
protecting his
yeah,
mate.
Yeah,
That's too funny.
it was interesting, and yeah, even though I didn't shoot, but that whole scenario was amazing.
Yeah.
I was in shock. I'm like, what's going on?
Yeah, that's fascinating. So what is the effective range of a bow in terms of like hunting and taking an animal with a bow?
I cannot really comment on that yet
Okay.
because I haven't shot one yet.
Yep.
I ask me when I do shoot one.
All right.
I reckon.
But the closer the better, right?
Yeah, the closer the better. Especially when you are pulling low poundage.
Mm-hmm.
Try get as close as you can. That's why I was thinking 15 to 20 max.
Yeah, okay.
Because I only pull like 33 pounds.
Okay.
I'm a weakling. So I need to strengthen myself up a bit.
Yep.
But there's plenty of female hunters that shoot with bow only, and they amaze me. I look
Yeah.
up to them because it's a skill on its own.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
it is.
it's a skill, and they pull really large pounds.
Yeah,
like,
right.
Yeah,
So yeah, there's a lot of physical
amazing.
strength
Yeah.
required, plus a lot of
Yeah,
skill.
and it takes time. So they've told me they've started on 25 and then gone up and gone up.
Yep.
So I started on 25
Mm-hmm.
while I was practicing, and then we went up. Now I'm up to 33, and I think I can pull up to 35 now. So
Okay.
the more I can pull, the more distance you can
Yeah, okay.
shoot at.
So you're
Okay.
increasing your effective range
Yes.
by having more power
Yeah.
in the bow.
And the
right?
weight on the arrow weight as well, and the broadhead, it all comes into play.
It's pretty technical,
I'm
right?
still learning on that side
Yeah.
of things. Yeah,
So-
it's like going in here and like, phew.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've never done any bow hunting,
Yeah.
but I've got a lot of mates that do, and when they start talking about it,
Yeah.
my eyes glaze over
It's
because
a
I don't know
lot.
what they're talking about.
There's a lot involved.
Very technical.
Weighing and
Mm.
yeah.
So, what motivated you to try and pick up a bow? Was it just a new challenge that you wanted for yourself?
I've always loved archery, so I've always shot a recurve
Yep.
just on target for fun. Yeah, and then just a challenge. You know, I
So,
want to
what's
see.
the difference between a recurve bow and
Yeah.
a compound bow?
So the recurve is just that, that wood going, that
Okay.
curved wood.
So, like a Robin Hood kind
Yes,
of.
that
Yep,
kind.
okay,
Yeah, you can get it in plastic or wood.
Yep.
And then the compound has got all those bearings and everything that's very technique.
So it's got pulleys and all
Everything,
sorts
yeah,
of stuff on it, right?
yeah, like
so
all
that's
those little
more
weedy-
powerful.
Or way more.
Yeah. Okay.
Easier to have control as well
Okay.
than a recurve, because once you pull a recurve, your arm starts shaking because you're keeping it in that one spot, and then you lose that momentum.
Okay.
But with a compound, once you pull it, it locks in there, so you can relax your hand.
Okay.
So you don't have that pressure anymore, and you can wait. You know, when you're breathing, also breathing techniques, like shooting like a firearm, exactly. The breathing techniques, you know, inhale, then exhale as you shoot with a bow, same as a rifle.
Yeah, right.
Same technique.
And do people in Australia hunt with recurves?
Yes,
Wow.
I've seen.
So that's like
I've watched heaps of videos.
That's like the most hardcore way of hunting, right?
Yeah, that's when you're like, hey, you're a pro.
Yeah, if you really want to make your life difficult, then you go hunt with a recurve, right?
Yeah, I've watched videos also spear hunting.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that legal in Australia?
In some places, I believe. I'm not
right.
sure exactly. I wouldn't do it.
Yeah, right.
It's not my thing. But yeah, like looking back in time in history, that's what they used.
Well, the native Australians, right?
Yeah.
They were throwing spears,
Spears, bows, you know, using a stick, and the methods where they bent them, it's unbelievable.
Do you think there's a part of you that, I guess it's like almost instinctive that we've as humans, right, we've got a background in hunting and gathering, right?
Yeah.
Do you think that's part of your motivation?
It's in our genetics. You know, the first time I ever had to gut an animal myself, before that I was like, oh my goodness, am I able to do it? But as soon as I started, it's like normal. Yeah. Which is very weird. It's all of a sudden you know where to grab, you know what to pull out, what's not good for you, you know? And it's just an instinct. Yeah. It's weird.
It is strange, but I think you're absolutely right. And I know even with, you know, preparing and cleaning fish, it is kind of instinctive, right?
Yeah.
You can figure out what you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, you need to clean it. So you got to, cut that part and remove everything that's not good for you. And
and I think, you know, that's the part for me that really draws me to hunting and to fishing is that I believe that that's the way that we should be, right? And, you know, I mentioned earlier in the discussion about people being disconnected from food.
Yeah.
But for so many thousands of years as a species, we were hunters, right?
Absolutely. And the amount of people getting sick now was not like that back then. You know, even let's say 40 years ago or 30 years ago, it wasn't as bad as what it is now.
Yeah, because we're eating food that's so processed and full of chemicals, right?
All man-made stuff. It's not a natural product that you're eating, which is quite concerning, and that's what's causing a lot of cancers and things like that out there. So don't get me wrong, I still love my junk food. I'm so bad with junk food.
Good.
But if I can add more, you know, natural food into our palate, it's still giving me a chance to be healthier than what others are at the moment.
Absolutely,
you know?
And there's a lot to be said for that, right? I know in our household, if we haven't had fish for a while, my wife will ask me to go and catch some fish because she wants to eat them.
But sometimes we don't realise it's our body needing it, and that's why we crave it.
Yeah, that's right.
Because our body needs it. It's a medicine to our body.
Yeah, and I think something that I've found particularly, you know, as I've focused more on fishing for food, I still do a bit of sport fishing and do a bit of catch and release fishing, but predominantly with limited time, if I'm going to go out fishing, I'm bringing food home for the family. It's kind of spoiled me in some regards because now I don't want to buy fish. I don't want to eat fish that someone else has prepared. The way that you treat the animal after it's been killed and being able to get it fresh and know how it's been treated, there's something really special about that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think it comes through in the flavour of the food, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So when you're bringing animals home for your family, so things like deer and goats, have you got specific ways of preparing those animals that you prefer? Like, do you do any curing of meats, or are you cooking most of it fresh? What's your sort of program?
Legs, I usually wait 2 weeks. So I wrap it up with a brand new, not a used pillowcase.
Oh yeah, just a cotton pillowcase, right?
Put it in there, straight into the fridge.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, wait 2 weeks, take it out. The pillowcase is stuck onto the meat, so you just peel it off it, and then you cut off all the dried meat, and inside is the most tenderest meat you'll ever come across.
So that's dry aging effectively?
Yes,
Yeah, okay.
Without making it rotten.
Yeah,
because it's in the fridge. But with back straps, tenderloins, shoulders, I'll eat straight away.
Yeah, okay. Do you do any preserving of meat, like any sort of salamis or
No,
anything like
I
that?
don't.
No?
I don't. No, not really. It's because most of our cuisine is cooked in the Middle Eastern kind of,
Yep.
Lebanese type of food. So you don't really, we'll do sausages and stuff
Yep.
like that, but on that week we'll do it.
Yeah, okay.
Not something that we'll preserve.
Yeah, so that's not something that, is too common in your culture, I suppose.
Oh no,
in
there
terms
is.
of-
There is. There's I don't know if it's a salami. It's called sujout.
Yep.
It's a dried, kind
Oh,
of.
yeah, I think I've eaten
Yeah,
that.
sujout.
Yeah, okay.
There's a few different types and flavors, and but I don't. It's not my favorite. That's the thing.
Yeah. Just, the fresh, I guess, prime cuts is where it's
that's
at, right?
it. I love mincemeat.
Yeah, okay.
I love mincing.
And you've got 4 kids, you mentioned?
Yes.
Do they all eat game meat?
Yes, they do.
And they all love it?
Yes, they do.
That's so good,
Yeah.
isn't it? So you've, as you said, your son is as passionate about hunting as you are.
Yes,
And even
absolutely.
before we started filming, we were having a little chat, and
Yeah.
he's quite a good storyteller.
Oh,
so we
yes.
might have to get him on the podcast for a bit of a discussion one day. But just talking to him before we started filming, you can feel the passion in him,
yeah.
and you've obviously raised him
Yeah.
to appreciate the bush and appreciate hunting the
He
same way that you
respects
do.
it so much, a lot.
Yeah, and for a young guy, he's very mature in the way he speaks,
Yeah.
and you can tell that he's learnt that from you,
Thank you.
and the way that
Thank
you
you.
approach things. So, look, I just want to thank you again for sitting
You're
down
welcome. No,
to
thank
to
you for
chat with
having me.
No, it's been great, and I think in closing, I know that this topic isn't for everybody.
Yeah.
I know that there are people that don't approve of hunting, but I encourage you to just understand from a different perspective.
Yeah.
I'm not saying everyone has to go out there and hunt their own meat, but have an understanding of it. Understand where your food comes
Yeah.
from, because it is important.
Absolutely.
And at the end of the day, it's organic, free range,
Yeah.
beautiful food, and it's
the
out
best
there
life.
for all of us.
It is the best.
Yeah. Well, thanks again, Kadz.
You're welcome. You're
If
welcome.
anyone wants to find you online, where's the best place to do that?
Just go on Google, type in Kadz.Huntress, and you'll find me.
Perfect.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks again.
Thank
and
you.
thanks for tuning in, guys. We will catch you next time on The Outer Side.
Thank you.